Ladies and gentlemen, your mind is your greatest weapon. It decides whether you rise or quit, whether you move forward or stay stuck, whether you become powerful or remain average. Life does not get easier, challenges grow, pressure increases, expectations rise, and that is exactly why your mind must become stronger than your circumstances. A tough mind is not one that never feels pain. It is one that refuses to surrender. It is the mind that keeps going when everything says stop. When comfort calls your name, a tough mind chooses discipline. When fear tries to control you, a tough mind takes action. When failure tries to define you, a tough mind rewrites the story. Most people wait for motivation. But a mentally strong person operates on commitment. They show up on the days they don't feel like it. They work when no one is watching. They stay focused when distractions are everywhere. Because they understand one truth: success is built in the mind before it appears in reality. Your environment will not always support you. People will doubt you. Results will come slowly. There will be days when nothing seems to work. That is the moment your mental toughness is tested. Do you break or do you build? Do you complain or do you continue? A strong mind turns pressure into power and obstacles into opportunities. Toughening your mind means controlling your thoughts instead of letting your thoughts control you. It means replacing excuses with execution. It means staying calm in chaos, focused in noise, and confident in uncertainty. It means training yourself to see growth in difficulty and purpose in pain. Discomfort becomes your training ground. Discipline becomes your lifestyle. Patience becomes your strength. And consistency becomes your identity. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a stronger mindset, because when your mind becomes unshakable, nothing outside you can break you. No delay can stop you. No failure can define you. No fear can control you. So train your mind daily. Feed it with positive thoughts. Protect it from negativity. Challenge it with hard tasks. And remind yourself every single day: you are not here to be comfortable. You are here to become powerful. Mental strength is the force that determines how a person responds to life, regardless of the circumstances surrounding them. External conditions are never fully in anyone's control. The environment may be difficult, resources may be limited, people may be unsupportive, and situations may seem unfair. Yet history and everyday life consistently prove that those who develop a strong mind find a way forward. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is rarely the situation itself. It is the interpretation of that situation. A powerful mind sees possibility where others see problems, growth where others see pain, and opportunity where others see obstacles. When conditions are favorable, almost anyone can feel motivated, confident, and focused. Comfort requires no courage. But when uncertainty appears, when results are delayed, and when effort is not immediately rewarded, the true test begins. A mentally strong person does not depend on perfect timing, perfect support, or perfect resources. They create their own stability from within. Their confidence is not built on applause. Their discipline is not based on mood. And their progress is not controlled by temporary setbacks. They understand that waiting for the right conditions is a trap that keeps most people from ever beginning. External challenges often appear powerful because they are visible and immediate. Financial pressure, criticism, competition, failure, and unexpected change can shake a person who has not trained their mind to remain steady. But mental strength transforms pressure into fuel. Instead of asking why something difficult is happening, A strong mind asks what can be learned from it and how it can be used for growth. This shift in perspective changes everything. The situation remains the same, but the response becomes stronger, wiser, and more focused. A person with a resilient mindset does not ignore pain or difficulty. They simply refuse to be controlled by it. They feel fear but take action anyway. They experience doubt but continue to move forward. They face rejection but do not allow it to define their worth. This inner stability becomes more valuable than any external advantage because conditions change constantly. Opportunities come and go, people enter and leave, and circumstances rise and fall. A trained mind, however, remains consistent. It becomes a source of direction when everything else feels uncertain. Many people spend their energy trying to change everything around them before they change themselves. They believe they will start working hard when they feel motivated, become confident when they receive validation, or take risks when they feel ready. Mental strength reverses this pattern. It teaches a person to act despite emotions, to stay disciplined without recognition, and to remain focused without immediate results. This creates a level of independence that no external condition can take away. Progress becomes self-generated rather than situation-dependent. Difficult environments often produce the strongest individuals because they are forced to develop inner power. When nothing is guaranteed, persistence becomes a habit. When support is limited, self-belief becomes essential. When success is not immediate, patience becomes a strength. These qualities cannot be given by favorable conditions. They are built through resistance. Every challenge becomes a form of training, shaping the mind to become more adaptable, more focused, and more resilient. Mental strength also protects a person from the distractions and negativity that exist in every environment. There will always be opinions, comparisons, and pressures that try to shift attention away from meaningful goals. A strong mind knows what to ignore. It does not waste energy on things that do not contribute to growth. It remains committed to its path even when others do not understand it. This clarity creates momentum, and momentum creates results. The power of a trained mind is that it turns limitations into stepping stones. Lack of resources builds creativity. Lack of support builds independence. Slow progress builds patience. Failure builds wisdom. Instead of becoming excuses, these conditions become tools for development. The focus moves away from what is missing and toward what can be done with what is available. This mindset creates continuous movement, and continuous movement eventually changes the conditions themselves. True strength is revealed in moments when giving up seems easier than continuing. In those moments, external factors are often at their worst, but a disciplined mind refuses to surrender. It remembers the purpose behind the struggle. It sees beyond the temporary discomfort. It chooses long-term growth over short-term relief. This ability to stay committed regardless of circumstances is what separates temporary effort from lasting transformation. A strong mind creates its own environment. It carries focus into chaos, hope into difficulty, and determination into uncertainty. It does not wait for the world to become easier. It becomes stronger so that no situation can control its direction. This inner power allows a person to move forward in any condition, to grow in any environment, and to continue even when the path is unclear. Over time, it becomes evident that external conditions were never the deciding factor. The true foundation of progress was always the strength of the mind. Discipline must replace the need for constant motivation expended in 700 words without subheading and conclusion. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, while motivation is often nothing more than a temporary emotion. Motivation rises and falls depending on mood, environment, energy, and circumstances. It can be strong in the morning and gone by evening. It can appear when everything feels exciting and disappear the moment difficulty shows up. If progress depends on motivation, then progress becomes inconsistent. This is why discipline must take control. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It tells you what must be done. Relying on motivation creates a cycle of starting and stopping. People feel inspired, they begin with intensity, they make plans, and for a short time everything feels possible. But when the excitement fades, so does the action. The goals remain, the dreams remain, yet the movement stops. Discipline breaks this cycle by removing the need to feel ready. It trains the mind and body to act on command. It turns effort into a habit instead of a reaction to emotion. When discipline becomes part of daily life, productivity is no longer connected to mood. Work happens on the days when energy is high and also on the days when nothing feels right. Growth continues when the weather is good and when the conditions are uncomfortable. This consistency is what creates real change. Small actions repeated every day become powerful results over time. While motivation pushes a person to start, discipline is what keeps them moving long after the excitement is gone. Discipline also builds trust within yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when you do not feel like doing it, you strengthen your self-respect. You prove to yourself that your actions are stronger than your emotions. This inner trust becomes a source of confidence that no external praise can replace. You no longer need to wait for the perfect moment because you know you can perform in imperfect ones. There are many days when the mind will suggest rest, delay, or distraction. It will search for comfort and create excuses that sound reasonable. Motivation listens to those excuses, but discipline does not negotiate with them. Discipline understands that comfort in the present often creates regret in the future, while effort in the present creates freedom later. It keeps the focus on long-term purpose rather than short-term feelings. Another power of discipline is that it reduces overthinking. When actions are scheduled and habits are formed, there is no daily debate about whether to work or not. The decision has already been made. This saves mental energy and creates a clear direction. Instead of spending time waiting to feel inspired, that time is used for meaningful effort. Over weeks and months, this simple shift creates a massive difference between those who depend on motivation and those who depend on discipline. Motivation often comes from external sources: a speech, a video, a conversation, a success story. These sources can ignite a spark, but the spark cannot keep the fire burning forever. Discipline is the fuel that keeps the fire alive. It is built in silence, in repetition, in showing up when no one is watching. It is not dramatic or emotional, but it is powerful. It transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary results through consistency. Discipline also creates freedom. At first, it may feel strict and demanding, but over time it removes stress and uncertainty. When you know that your work will be done regardless of how you feel, you no longer carry the weight of unfinished tasks and delayed goals. Your mind becomes clear because you are no longer controlled by procrastination. The structure that discipline creates allows creativity, focus, and confidence to grow. In difficult moments, motivation disappears first. When failure happens, when progress is slow, when results are invisible, the emotional drive fades. This is where discipline becomes the deciding factor. It keeps you moving in the dark, trusting the process, even when the outcome is not visible. It teaches patience because it focuses on daily action rather than immediate reward. It turns the journey into a routine instead of a struggle. A disciplined life is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. It is about understanding that success is not built in a single moment of inspiration, but in hundreds of moments of effort that no one sees. It is waking up and doing the work. It is continuing when it would be easier to stop. It is choosing progress over comfort again and again until progress becomes your identity. When discipline replaces the need for constant motivation, you gain control over your direction. Your goals are no longer dependent on your emotions. Your habits become stronger than your excuses. Your future becomes a result of your daily actions rather than your temporary feelings. You stop waiting to feel ready and start creating results through commitment. This shift changes everything because it turns effort into a lifestyle and growth into a permanent process. Challenges are often seen as interruptions, as unwanted moments that slow progress and test patience, yet in reality, they are the very conditions that shape inner strength. Without difficulty, resilience remains undeveloped, like a muscle that is never used. It is through resistance that endurance is formed, through pressure that stability is created, and through uncertainty that true confidence begins to grow. Every challenge carries within it the possibility of transformation, but only for those who choose to face it with the mindset of growth rather than defeat. When life becomes comfortable, the mind relaxes into routine, and the desire to stretch beyond limits fades. There is no urgency to adapt, no reason to become stronger, and no demand for deeper self-belief. Challenges disrupt this comfort. They force a person to confront their fears, their weaknesses, and their doubts. In doing so, they reveal abilities that would have remained hidden in easier circumstances. The struggle itself becomes a form of training, teaching patience, focus, emotional control, and persistence. Resilience is not built in moments of success. It is built in moments when success feels distant. It is created when plans fail, when effort is not immediately rewarded, and when the path forward is unclear. In those moments, a choice appears. One option is to step back, to label the situation as unfair, and to surrender to frustration. The other option is to adapt, to learn, and to continue moving forward with greater awareness. Each time the second choice is made, resilience becomes stronger. Challenges also teach the ability to remain steady in the face of change. Life rarely follows a predictable pattern. Situations shift, people come and go, and outcomes are often different from what was expected. A resilient mind learns not to depend on perfect conditions. It learns to stay focused even when the environment becomes unstable. This stability becomes a powerful advantage because it allows progress to continue while others pause, doubt, or give up. There is also a hidden gift inside every difficult moment: self-discovery. When everything is going well, it is easy to believe in personal strength, but true character is revealed when circumstances become demanding. Challenges show how much patience exists, how strong discipline really is, and how deep determination can go. They expose the difference between interest and commitment. They force a person to move beyond excuses and take responsibility for their own growth. Pain and discomfort are often the greatest teachers because they demand attention and reflection. They push a person to find new strategies, to think creatively, and to develop emotional control. They teach that failure is not an ending but information, a guide that shows what must be improved. Over time, this creates a mindset that does not fear difficulty but welcomes it as a necessary part of progress. The obstacle is no longer seen as something that blocks the path. It becomes the path itself. Resilience also grows through repetition. One challenge faced with courage makes the next challenge easier to handle. Confidence begins to replace fear because the mind remembers previous victories over difficulty. The person who once doubted their ability to endure begins to trust their capacity to adapt and survive. This trust becomes a source of calm in future storms. Instead of reacting with panic, they respond with focus and determination. Another powerful aspect of challenges is that they build independence. When support is limited and results are uncertain, a person learns to rely on their own effort and mindset. This creates a deep sense of control over life's direction. External circumstances lose their power to define success or failure because the focus shifts to internal growth. The question is no longer why is this happening, but what is this teaching me? Over time, the accumulation of these experiences creates a person who is unshakable, not because life has become easier, but because the mind has become stronger. Difficult moments no longer feel like threats. They feel like opportunities to apply everything that has been learned. Pressure becomes a test that reveals progress. Setbacks become adjustments rather than endings. The beauty of resilience is that it does not remove struggle. It transforms the way struggle is experienced. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable. What once caused doubt begins to build confidence. The same level of difficulty that once created fear now creates focus. This shift is the result of repeatedly choosing growth in the face of hardship. Every challenge faced with patience adds depth to character. Every obstacle approached with determination increases mental endurance. Every failure analyzed with honesty sharpens wisdom. In this way, difficulty becomes a tool for development rather than a barrier to success. The person who understands this no longer wishes for an easier life, but for greater strength, knowing that each challenge is shaping them into someone capable of handling more, achieving more, and becoming more than they once believed possible. Control your thoughts to control your life. Expended in 700 words without subheading and conclusion. Control over life begins with control over thoughts, because every action, emotion, and decision is first created in the mind. The direction of a person's life is not shaped only by external events, but by the way those events are interpreted internally. Two people can face the same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes simply because their thinking patterns are different. One sees limitation, the other sees possibility. One focuses on fear, the other on growth. This silent conversation within the mind becomes the blueprint for reality. Thoughts are powerful because they influence behavior without being noticed. A single negative belief repeated over time becomes a permanent barrier. When the mind constantly says, "I am not capable," effort decreases, confidence weakens, and opportunities are avoided. On the other hand, when the mind is trained to say, "I will find a way," energy increases, focus sharpens, and persistence becomes natural. The outer world begins to reflect the inner dialogue. This is why mastering thoughts is not just a mental exercise, it is the foundation of transformation. Most people allow their thoughts to move in any direction, reacting to every situation without awareness. Worry appears and is accepted as truth. Doubt enters and is allowed to stay. Fear speaks and is obeyed without question. But a disciplined mind does not accept every thought as reality. It observes, questions, and replaces. It understands that not every thought deserves attention, and not every emotion deserves control. This awareness creates distance between the thinker and the thought, and in that distance lies freedom. When thoughts are uncontrolled, life feels chaotic. Small problems become large, temporary setbacks feel permanent, and criticism feels like a personal attack. The mind magnifies negativity and ignores progress. But when thoughts are directed with purpose, perspective changes. Problems become tasks to solve, failure becomes feedback, and challenges become training. The situation may remain the same, yet the experience becomes completely different because the interpretation has changed. Controlling thoughts also means choosing focus. The mind has limited energy, and where that energy goes determines results. If attention is constantly placed on what is missing, what went wrong, and what others are doing, progress slows and frustration grows. When attention is placed on improvement, learning, and consistent action, growth becomes visible. Focus acts like a filter, allowing only what is useful to shape the mind. This selective attention builds clarity and prevents distraction from stealing potential. Another important aspect of thought control is emotional regulation. Emotions are natural, but they are often driven by automatic thinking patterns. A negative assumption creates anger, an imagined fear creates anxiety, and a comparison creates insecurity. By changing the thought, the emotional reaction changes. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means responding to reality with strength rather than impulse. It means pausing before reacting, choosing patience over frustration, and choosing understanding over judgment. The habits of the mind are formed through repetition. Just as negative thinking can become automatic, positive and constructive thinking can also become natural with practice. Each time a limiting thought is replaced with a solution, focused one, a new mental pathway is created. Each time gratitude is chosen over complaint, resilience grows. Each time self-belief is practiced, confidence becomes more stable. Over time, these small mental choices create a completely different personality and a completely different life experience. Controlling thoughts also creates independence from external validation. When the mind is stable, praise does not create arrogance, and criticism does not create collapse. The sense of worth comes from within, based on effort, progress, and values rather than opinions. This inner stability allows consistent movement toward goals, because the direction is no longer influenced by temporary reactions from others. A focused mind also improves decision-making. Clear thinking removes confusion and reduces impulsive choices. It allows long-term vision to guide short-term actions. Instead of reacting to every distraction, the mind measures whether something aligns with purpose. This creates a life that is intentional rather than accidental. Days are no longer filled with random activity, but with meaningful steps toward a defined direction. There is also a deep connection between thought control and resilience. When difficulty appears, the first reaction comes from the mind. If the thought is, "This is too much," the body slows down and motivation disappears. If the thought is, "This will make me stronger," energy rises and creativity begins to search for solutions. The same challenge produces different levels of endurance depending on the thinking behind it. A life of growth and purpose is built through conscious mental discipline. It requires observing the inner dialogue, removing what weakens it, and strengthening what empowers it. It means feeding the mind with ideas that create courage, focus, and determination. It means refusing to let temporary negativity become a permanent identity. As control over thoughts increases, control over actions follows. As actions become consistent, results begin to change. As results change, confidence deepens. This creates a cycle of progress that continues to expand. The external world starts to align with the internal structure that has been built with patience and awareness. The mind becomes a tool instead of a barrier. It becomes a source of direction instead of confusion. Life stops feeling random and starts feeling created with intention. By mastering the inner conversation, a person gains the ability to shape their response to every situation, and in that response lies the power to shape their entire path. Consistency in discomfort creates real growth. Expend it in 700 words without subheading and conclusion. Real growth begins at the point where comfort ends. The human mind naturally seeks ease, familiarity, and security. Yet everything that strengthens character, builds skill, and creates transformation lies beyond that familiar space. Discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a signal that something new is being developed. When a person chooses to return to that space of difficulty again and again with patience and commitment, progress becomes unavoidable. Consistency in those moments is what separates temporary effort from lasting change. The first encounter with discomfort often brings resistance. The body feels tired, the mind searches for excuses, and distractions suddenly appear more attractive than the work that needs to be done. In those moments, growth presents a simple choice: return to comfort or move forward through effort. One step taken despite resistance may seem small, but when repeated daily, it reshapes identity. The person who once avoided difficulty begins to seek it, understanding that each challenge faced is building strength that cannot be gained in ease. Comfort creates maintenance, not progress. It keeps life at a stable level where nothing is lost, but nothing new is gained. Skills remain the same, thinking patterns remain the same, and results remain the same. Discomfort, however, demands adaptation. It forces the mind to focus, to learn, and to find new ways of performing. It stretches physical, emotional, and mental limits. This stretching is what creates capacity. Just as a muscle grows only when it is pushed beyond its normal load, the mind and character expand only when they are challenged beyond routine. Consistency is the element that gives discomfort its power. Facing a difficult task once may create inspiration, but facing it repeatedly creates transformation. The first attempt often feels awkward and uncertain. The second feels slightly more familiar. Over time, what once seemed impossible becomes manageable, and what once created fear becomes part of daily life. This process is not dramatic. It is quiet and steady. Yet its results are profound because it builds discipline, resilience, and self-belief simultaneously. There is also a deep psychological shift that occurs when discomfort becomes a habit. Fear begins to lose its control. The mind stops seeing challenges as threats and starts seeing them as training. This shift creates confidence, not because everything is easy, but because the individual has proven to themselves that they can function in difficulty. This self-trust becomes a permanent source of strength. It allows action even when motivation is low, and persistence even when results are slow. Growth through discomfort also teaches patience. In a world that seeks immediate results, consistent effort in difficult conditions develops the ability to wait, to continue, and to believe in long-term outcomes. It removes the need for instant success and replaces it with commitment to daily improvement. Each repetition becomes a small investment in a future version of oneself that is stronger, wiser, and more capable. Another powerful effect of this consistency is the breaking of mental limits. Many limitations exist only because they have never been challenged. The mind creates boundaries based on past experience and fear of failure. When a person repeatedly enters discomfort, those boundaries begin to expand. Tasks that once seemed overwhelming become normal. Effort that once felt exhausting becomes manageable. This expansion of capacity changes what a person believes is possible, and belief influences every future action. Discomfort also builds emotional control. Difficult situations often bring frustration, doubt, and the urge to quit. By staying consistent through these emotions, a person learns not to be controlled by them. They learn to act despite them. This creates stability in performance and maturity in thinking. Emotional reactions lose their power to interrupt progress because the focus remains on the process rather than the feeling of the moment. Over time, the accumulation of these efforts creates visible change. Skills improve, endurance increases, focus sharpens, and confidence deepens. The individual who once searched for easy paths begins to take pride in doing hard things. The identity shifts from someone who avoids struggle to someone who grows through it. This identity is powerful because it influences every area of life, from personal goals to professional performance. There is also a sense of purpose that develops through consistent discomfort. Easy achievements rarely create deep satisfaction because they require little transformation. Difficult journeys, however, create a connection between effort and achievement. Every result carries the memory of the work that produced it. Would MEAN them G at UL and DIFFERENT build a lasting sense of fulfillment? Consistency in discomfort does not mean living in constant stress. It means choosing daily actions that challenge the current level of ability. It means waking up and doing what is necessary even when it is not convenient. It means practicing when progress feels slow and continuing when recognition is absent. These repeated choices form a lifestyle that naturally produces growth. In this process, discomfort stops being an enemy and becomes a guide. It shows where improvement is needed and where potential exists. By returning to it with discipline and patience, a person creates a version of themselves that is capable of handling greater responsibilities, achieving higher goals,